So the year is 2005. YouTube has just been born, and the very first video posted to the site is a man making leaps and bounds in comedy.
The cool thing about these guys is that they have really long fronts.
Wrestling is still going strong, with both the Invisible Man and Drax becoming world champions, and our old pal THQ, well, they're sweating buckets. See, THQ took a massive gamble in the first ever Smackdown vs. Raw, and it paid off. Their response to the game was pretty much, yeah, it's alright, but THQ wasn't quite satisfied with just okay. So they got back to work, crafting an even better game, improving upon every aspect of Smackdown vs. Raw, like making the wrestlers look that much more handsome.
Yo, why is he looking at me like that? What's up, little bud? You got a staring problem, pal?
Like what, dude? He's just looking at you. He's a baby.
Look at his face. Dumb little face.
Stop.
Yo, Zen, get your boy, dog.
Until eventually in early November, Smackdown vs. Raw 2006 exploded onto the scene. And once players got their hands on this game, they took a big old bite out of it and suddenly realised this wasn't your usual sweaty men simulator. The game quickly became a massive hit, with THQ knocking it straight out of the park. I mean, everyone loved it, from casual fans being unable to contain their excitement to the most respected critics being left absolutely dumbfounded at how good it was. Now in the fantastic year of 2021, SVR06 is heavily regarded as the absolute peak of the Smackdown vs. Raw series. And I mean, it's hard to argue that when you just simply hear the soundtrack.
Their favorite.
SVR06 pretty much built upon every good aspect of the first game, while also fixing some of the problems it had, like making the nameplates these smooth, elegant numbers instead of these Minecraft blocks that take up about 50% of the screen. Also this year, THQ made the heartbreaking decision to remove the sexy dancing divas. No! How sad. Hey Google, play the Ratatouille soundtrack. What the fuck? To be honest though, as a whole, the game looks pretty great, even if the camera is a bit too zoomed in on Randy Orton's beautiful eyes, and some of the matchup poses are, slightly too intimidating for me.
Why Sigma males are more attractive than Alpha males. Stay tuned.
Oh, and while I'm on the topic, the roster itself has seen a vast improvement from last year. Like no one else has left to pursue a Twitch career, and we have some new friendly faces like, oh no. Actually, come to think of it, Heidenreich bears a stunning resemblance to Roy from Blade Runner.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
As always though, the game looks great, being filled with my two favourite things, large sweaty men, and of course Stage 7 brain trauma. No! On the real, the graphics throughout the series continually got better and better, adding a continued layer of polish and shine to each game. And when it comes to SVR06, the entrances are much more dynamic, the arenas look picture perfect, and the in-game models are just mwah. Gorgeous! I mean, just look at some of these fine specimens. You've got Chris Masters looking like he's sculpted from pure diamonds, and Triple H enjoying a lovely beverage as he makes his way to the ring.
Do you know what a MILF is?
Combine that with lighting that makes these guys look beefier than your average McDonald's menu.
Did I just order the entire McDonald's menu? Yes, I did.
And you've got, quite frankly, an absolutely stunning game on your hands. To be fair though, not everything looks great. And you see a fair amount of objects clipping through stuff, like belts and hands. But again, the game did come out in 2005, the same year when a giant monkey was at the forefront of technology.
Monkey.
Plus, this still happens in the fucking current game, but at the very least, the game tries to make up for this by adding in small details like blood staining the ring canvas. Wow, very wholesome. And as for the in-ring action, well, as usual, everything looks and sounds about as painful as your average TGF video. Speaking of which, the gameplay here is, it's great. Alright, let's cross that one off the list. Okay, so here's the thing. I struggle to put together a cohesive sentence at the best of times, and let's just say my ability to write scripts isn't exactly fantastic. So if I'm going to review all these games, which kind of just meld into each other with how similar they are, then it'd probably be a better use of my time to talk about stuff that's different here, rather than just saying gameplay equals good. Which in saying that, the first thing I noticed was that the AI will beat the shit out of you. You see, in the previous games, your opponents weren't exactly that difficult, having an IQ similar to the average Fortnite fan.
Fuck you, whore! We like Fortnite! We like Fortnite!
But in SVR06, THQ must have wanted to shake things up a little, and made the brave decision to program the AI with the same brain power as fucking Sherlock Holmes.
Discombobulate.
Seriously though, the AI is actually kinda smart in this game. Well, most of the time anyway. Not to mention, it can be insanely combative and aggressive during matches too, effectively on par with the average YouTuber asking you to subscribe to their channel.
It is time
However, I don't think this is a bad thing at all. In fact, I actually think it makes the overall gameplay a lot more fun as matches are so much more competitive, having a great flow to them, stringing together counters on top of counters until one of you eventually manages to hit a big move. The game just feels so much more rewarding to play and will constantly keep you on your toes, as you can easily go from kicking someone's ass 1 second to getting pinned the next. Although it can be somewhat frustrating when you're trying to pull off a big convoluted spot and the AI simply isn't having it. Now, besides the artificial intelligence being incredibly friendly, there has been a lot of new features added into this game, including a dazzling array of new match types. These include a buried alive match, where not only can you use a shovel to safely decapitate your opponents, but as the name suggests, you can also bury them in around 10 inches of dirt. You can have a casual fight in a bar, pitting the average British gentleman against the average American man, in order to find out which nation truly deserves the prestigious title of most alcoholic. And now you've got the ability to have title matches, meaning you can put any title on the line in any type of match and make anyone you want a WWE champion. Unfortunately though, some sacrifices had to be made, and sadly, there's no longer a bra and panties match. But don't worry, you can still respect women by playing a Fulfill Your Fantasy match, where you dress them up as either a sexy nurse or French maid and have a pillow fight.
I think some fantasies are getting fulfilled here, Cole.
Wow, isn't this great? Yes! Other than these match types, the biggest new addition to this game is the inclusion of a stamina meter. Basically, this will constantly decrease over the course of the match until it fully empties and the wrestler you're playing as will just collapse from pure exhaustion. Or alternatively, just look like they've ran out of charge. With the only way to increase your stamina being to simply stop wrestling, take your inhaler, and have a little lie down. Again, this feature plays into the simulation-like aspects of the game, along with having wrestlers being visibly hurt during matches, and of course wrestlers under 6'2" being unable to lift more than your average Tesco shopping bags. Now, in all honesty, I'm kind of in two minds about this feature. On the one hand, it adds another interesting dynamic to matches, creating some pretty tense moments and adding in an element of strategy, but on the other hand, it can sometimes be really annoying and also stretch matches out to a ridiculous length. For example, this buried alive match legitimately took me about 25 minutes to do because every time I tried to whip Taker into the casket, he would constantly collapse because he obviously forgot to do his cardio that day. And when I say this happened every time, I mean every fucking time.
Too bad that's it, Cole. I could have watched them go even longer.
Say psych right now. Overall though, I genuinely think this gameplay is great. Sure, it has its problems, like some camera cuts showing off the action about as well as driving a bus in front of it, and this running glitch is quite frankly a personal favourite of mine. But memes aside, at its core, SWR 6 still plays like the past installments of the series, being just as fun, but all these new features being added really work with the game rather than against it, drastically improving the gameplay, and also ironing out any problems that may have been in the past couple of games. Like how the game actively punishes you for spamming the same moves over and over again, draining your momentum, which encourages more creativity in matches. It's little tweaks like that which really makes this game stand out and adds a whole lot more balance to matchups. Oh, and before I forget, someone's remembered to put in winning animations this year. Good job! Now, after you get bored playing the Spanky minigame, as always, there's different game modes you can go through, and in SWR 6, you can either participate in the season mode, or we have a brand new game mode here, known as General Manager mode, which, we'll get to later. Because firstly, we've got another season mode to play through, which meant as usual, I needed to craft another fantastic wrestler. So this time around, I went with the most intimidating figure I could think of. I wanted someone who could strike fear into the hearts of their opponents. So I made Walter White.
The hell are you supposed to be?
And quite frankly, I think I've outdone myself with this beautiful creation. I mean, it looks exactly like him. Honestly, if Walter was with me right now, you could tell he'd be proud.
Fuck you.
Oh, and while I'm here, the creation mode is, it's pretty sick. Again, there isn't much more I can add to that, like realistically I've said all I can about how good the creation modes are in these games. Although, some notable improvements was the ability to put together more intricate entrances, and also creating a title which won't cost you your entire life savings this time. Anyway, I'm sure you're wanting Big Walt over here to make his way through the season mode, claim WWE as his new meth empire, and also see if the voice acting is, fantastic as last year.
I'm gonna kill you! I swear to God, I'm gonna kill you!
Regrettably though, I'm here to report the voice acting is actually significantly better. Rest in peace, Renee's dog Fifi. On the real though, the overall voice acting is a lot better, going from 3AM video tier to at least Todd Howard tier.
What? That really pisses me off.
Like you can tell, wrestlers actually tried this time and were given some direction as to what was happening within the story, sounding way more invested in what was actually going on. Sure, it isn't exactly Oscar-worthy stuff, but holy shit, it's miles ahead of the flaming disaster that qualified as voice acting in the last game. Like even Eric Bischoff actually sounds like he's there rather than just sitting in his bathroom with a Blue Yeti. Get off, retarded! As for the season mode itself, depending on what brand you're on, you'll either start on Raw wrestling Triple H, or on Smackdown where Teddy Long gets ran over. From there, you get launched into the profoundly ridiculous world of WWE, having two dramatically different storylines based on whether you're on Raw or SmackDown, which again will somewhat change depending on the choices you make throughout the course of the season mode. This mechanic was then shamelessly stolen by Telltale Games in order to create their hit Batman game, Arkham City.
Shut the fuck up!
The storylines are also a lot better put together here, having a clear narrative flow with some fairly interesting plot twists which are able to be fleshed out more as they span over multiple different shows. Sure, it isn't perfect and the writing can be, questionable at times.
Is that the kind of person you consider a friend, Eugene? Someone who hits girls from behind?
But I'd much rather this than the stories just being, oh, I see you have wife, don't mind if I steal her. Now, as I'm sure you've noticed, this season mode has a lot more cutscenes, and when it's just two characters talking to each other, they look alright. However, when these wrestlers attempt to, wrestle each other, the moves look fucking horrible. The best way I can possibly describe them is that they either look really awkward or unbelievably sexual. They just lack any real impact and look incredibly sloppy, looking more like fucking backyard wrestling than anything else. Like, who mocapped this? Please, someone tell me, I just want to ask some questions. Although I'm willing to look past all of this because of this one cutscene which depicts the attempted murder of Ric Flair. Admittedly though, these dodgy cutscenes can be quite funny, and they don't particularly ruin the season mode for me. Like, I still really enjoyed playing through this again, making Walter White become the new world champion at WrestleMania,
I won.
as well as seeing his pleasant interactions with guys like Stone Cold.
And open up a can of whoop ass, Stone Cold style.
Who are you talking to right now?
Now, don't get me wrong, it's dumb as fuck sometimes, and stuff doesn't really make that much sense, but it kept me engaged throughout, had a lot of different matches, and was a fun time nonetheless. So, 5 out of 10, needs more bad voice acting. Now, as I mentioned, the other mode here is GM mode, which surprisingly is something I didn't really enjoy that much as a kid. But, I was stupid as a kid, and after replaying it, I can see why everyone loves it. GM mode pretty much does exactly what it says on the tin, letting you become the general manager of either Raw or SmackDown, setting you up with a small budget of only $10 million, which you'll initially use to sign anyone you want to a contract which can either be 5 weeks or 1 year. Oh, I am giving you all my money. From there, you'll start booking your own shows and competing against a rival brand in order to win something, I guess. And to be honest, now I can 100% say it's an absolute blast to play, letting you book your own matches, rivalries, segments, and champions, all while making sure you don't run out of that sweet moolah, and keeping everyone on your roster happy so they don't jump ship to the rival brand. Plus, after every show, you get to see how well each match performed, the best segments of the week, and whether or not you're winning the ratings, and honestly, it's just a great time for the entire family. Like, realistically, I'm struggling to think of anything funny to say here, it's just a really solid game mode. The only criticism I really do have here is that the more you play it, it can get a little bit stale, but it's still a great addition to the game nonetheless, which sucks you in all the more, and makes me realise how awful Universe Mode is in comparison. SPR06 just offers so much to players, it's insane. Like the stuff I didn't even mention here, like the Create a Pay-Per-View mode, which is exactly the same as last year, no one really cares about, and the fact that you have your own locker room, which you can decorate to your heart's desire, and you even have your own PC where you can watch anything you want. Almost everything in the game has seen major improvements, from the gameplay being way more balanced and skill-based, to the season mode being more immersive than ever. Despite some things. Not to mention, the game has a metric ton of replay value, and overall it's fantastic to play from start to finish. Which means in the SBR tier list, Smackdown vs. Raw 2006 is undoubtedly going an F. I mean, come on man, no one likes a show off.